What's the biggest problem for atheism? Yeah, it's interesting because I think, as I've looked at both Christianity and atheism, had such a, 20 years plus of opportunity to kind of compare and contrast them. The interesting thing is that I think there are actually, if you just look at it in terms of the numbers of arguments, there are lots more arguments for God than against God. As I say, the main argument against God is the problem of suffering, I would say. Whereas there are lots more, I would say, questions, for me at least, that come up for atheism. There are so many things that's hard to explain if a purely atheist naturalist account of reality is true. I mean, probably the key one for me is how do we make sense of morality? If we are, in the end, if all that exists is matter in motion, the laws of the universe, all of our moral beliefs, all of the things we value are ultimately just kind of illusions, really, that have been foisted upon us by a sort of purposeless process. And the problem is that none of us actually live life like that. None of us think about morality in that way. None of us actually engage life that way. So I think that is a serious problem for atheists, because it's very hard to reconcile the atheist worldview with the fact that we do seem to live in a moral universe, where these things are absolutely the most foundational important things we can think of. And it's why I think, for many people, whether they've called it this or not, the moral argument for God has been one of the most persuasive arguments. It was for C.S. Lewis. His journey from atheism to theism, the moral argument for God was really what took him across the line. It was another further journey to kind of embrace full-blooded Christianity. But I've met a lot of people for whom just recognizing that there is such a thing as evil has been kind of the first serious move towards God, because it's often when you're confronted by real evil that you realize, no, this isn't just atoms and electrons or socio-cultural forces. There's something real here, and it needs explaining. So that for me, if you had to ask me for one of the things that I think is the hardest for atheism to account for, it would be morality.